Evening, everybody. It's 6:30 p.m. on the West Coast. See, I mixed it up this time.
Tim,
9:30 p.m. on the East Coast. It's time for your weekly Calamity Jane live stream. James, how are you doing tonight?
doing just dandy. It's okay. I'm glad the West Coast gets a little priority once in a while.
Once in a
Good
while,
time.
yeah. No, I'll be honest. I miss a lot of things about living on the West Coast. One of the not a deal breaker per se, but something I always liked is I kind of liked being 3 hours behind everybody.
Yeah, I do. I like it myself.
Yeah, it made me feel a little. I say everybody, but really mean the West Coast. There's, one half of the country that doesn't live in the East Coast. Well, three-quarters of the country doesn't live in the East Coast.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I feel like in the United States, generally speaking, the default is Eastern Standard Time, and so
hmm
by by that reckoning, the West Coast always is 3 hours late to the party, and I
Yeah.
always love that. Like my favorite thing is Nintendo in particular, but other game companies, they set their clock, even though they're based in Seattle, Redmond specifically, but they base their clock on East Coast time. So when they say a game comes out midnight on Friday, what that meant for me living on the West Coast was 9 p.m. on Thursday.
Yeah.
And that was
Yeah.
like, yay!
Yeah. I so I was raised in Utah, but
And that's in Mountain
lived
Time,
in
right?
California. Yeah, Mountain Time. So it's still West Coast enough to where you can kind of get things a little bit. You get the delay factor, but I think for especially for sporting events, because I mean I watch a lot of NBA basketball and stuff like that. For
Oh,
example.
sure.
So games will start on the East Coast at a certain time, but then we get the West Coast games, and I always, and the West Coast games start around 7:30. But I always thought like, if you're on the East Coast, you're not gonna stay up late to watch some really good games on the West Coast. So as
Right. I mean, like a
a
West
sports
Coast game that
fan,
starts at 7:30, it's 10:30
yeah,
already
it's
on the East
10:30.
Coast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so I always feel like I was kind of spoiled being on the west side of the country, because you can enjoy that. The only drawback is when you're watching something live. You're a fan of some live show or there's some sort of result that's being announced. You're getting the delayed feed of
Right.
the announcement already, so the internet ruins it for you. So you don't get to watch it, quote unquote, live like everybody else does on the East Coast. That's the only drawback.
It is. It is. And I don't watch live television
Yeah,
for the most part, so it's never really a thing. But yeah, and there'll be there's fun stuff too. Like something happens on SNL.
yeah,
Like someone will drop an F bomb and it'll get through on
yeah,
live TV or something. But then
yeah,
by the
yeah.
time it gets to the West Coast,
It's
they've
already
gone back and
cleaned up.
censored it already, right?
Yeah, but with all that said, I think, I think it's definitely a perk being on the West
Yeah.
Coast
And this is a
for
complete
TV stuff.
aside. But I remember back when the TV show 30 Rock, which is one of my favorite TV shows of all time, they did a live episode, which was awful. But what they did is, which was kind of cool, they did an East Coast feed and a West Coast feed. So they
Oh,
actually rehearsed and prepped the show and ran it twice.
huh.
It was pretty cool, and they had different actors come in, different guest stars come in for the East Coast feed versus the West Coast feed.
Mhm.
And now, when you watch it on Netflix, I think they only show the East Coast feed. So every time I watch it,
Yeah,
I'm like, "That's not how the episode goes."
yeah, yeah. But oh well, what do you do?
Yeah,
At least you can, yeah,
but
yeah.
in any case, because I think like in the East Coast feed on that episode, like Julia Louise Dreyfus was the guest star, but then I think Megan Mullally was the guest star from the West Coast feed,
Oh,
and
really?
I much prefer Megan Mullally to or maybe it wasn't because she or whatever. We're off topic. What are we talking about tonight? I'm like rambling, and we haven't even gotten to the topic of the episode tonight.
Oh, well, I guess we can go right back into our accidentally long-running series on Tinsel, so we can kind of
No, that's
pick up where
fine.
we left off last week.
I know that we have kind of and this is a little spoiler for people or inside baseball maybe, but we tend to only devote a maximum usually of 3 episodes to a topic and then try to shift. But I have been totally fine with lingering on Tinsel a little bit, simply because the number of programs that you've been using
Yeah,
to bring this character to life is, I mean, it's interesting. right?
Yeah.
And I think that there's value lingering on this a little bit because it feels like every week you're interacting with a different artistic application, experimenting with different ways to realize tinsel, and to someone watching and is finding this interesting. I think it's a great opportunity to get a little bit of insight into how the sausage is made, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, and yeah, Tinsel is like since the inception of this of our show, like again, I've always wanted to incorporate 3D elements, with a 2D look, for background stuff and everything. But Tinsel really kind of walks that fine line between, is she really 2D or is she really 3D? Because
Mm-hmm.
she's technically a background element in some shots, but she can, and also just out of sheer wanting to limit my workload, I just don't want to draw her in every single position as a mechanical creature.
Right. Right.
Whereas Calamity, as an amphibian salamander, she's really malleable. You can really get away with drawing her really loose, and you're not gonna, you can't get too persnickety about it. But yeah, let me show you where I'm at with Tinsel today. I'm really curious to see what your thoughts are. Like what your reactions are going to be, where I'm at. So let me go into share screen, and let's go to share. Here we are.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. So I've now built her out farther along. Now it's not just her skull, but now we've got the general feel of her body.
Now, is this so? On the bottom of the screen, that
Mm-hmm.
looks familiar to me on something in Unreal called a blueprint, which is a visual programming language where you use state machines and flowcharts to control different aspects. You can use it for shaders. You can use it for scripting. You can use it all for kind of stuff. Are you building shaders based on this?
Yeah, this is a shader that I actually found on the internet, and I actually have a few shaders that I'm experimenting with. I just happen to have this one on right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, you pretty much you change the power of the shader with this chart here. For example, if I want to change this purple, I'm going to change it to, I don't know, green. There we
Oh,
go.
very interesting.
Yeah, so I'm playing just with colors in general.
Mm-hmm.
And again, trying to get that toon shade look. Let me see if I can do a render real quick just to see. So that would be how it should be rendered out. I mean, see, there's some issues here with the modeling I need to fix. So
Yeah,
again, I'm not
there
a
are there's some artifacting I'm seeing.
yeah, there's
Yeah.
some artifacts going on, but I got to go back and fix that stuff. But but the general feel, um, is kind of doing what I want it to do.
Mm-hmm.
Although, again with Calamity Jane, she's one tone, and so with the backgrounds, I was going to go with a couple of tones on them. And so Tinsel is going to go. I feel like it's going to go the same direction, but um, I still need to play with how subtle I want to make that with Tinsel.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Um, in general, that's kind of what I'm doing tonight is going to be playing around with this a little bit.
Very
What are your
interesting.
thoughts seeing this so far?
Um, I agree with you that the art is definitely different than what we've come to expect with all of the character art.
Uh-huh.
Um, I'll be honest. I find her wheels to be a little bit thin.
Uh-huh.
Not They don't feel tire like to me. They feel more barrel like. Um,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
the her back half is, yeah, it's the different the banding
Mm-hmm.
on the shader feels
Mm-hmm.
different than what we've come to expect with some of the other characters,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So it doesn't feel the same yet.
Right. It's hard for me to assess whether that's a good thing or a bad thing in a vacuum is the challenge.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even reducing or rather the opposite of that, thickening up the tire makes a huge difference.
Uh-huh. I uh I was thinking about how The tires. I'm indifferent with the tires right now. Again, this is still now. This is what Tinsel's become now. Is now gone from a pencil sketch to now to me. This is like a 3D sketch.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
now
Mm-hmm.
I'm playing around with stuff in 3D. It's a little difference. So for the tires, I was actually kind of going for that kind of more futuristic Tron kind of look for her tires. But I'm not married to that at all. I mean, if you have more of an opinion, if you like the tires being thicker, I have no I have no skin in the game on that. Like I just don't yeah, it's not a hill I'm gonna die on for sure. I don't really care. Like here's one that's kind of more 50-50.
Yeah, I mean, it feels more like a tire to me with the thicker
Mm-hmm.
with the thicker tire, quite frankly.
I can see
Um,
that for sure.
but I mean, that's just that's an off the cuff thought. It's not necessarily the right decision to go for Tinsel.
So
Um,
now here she is in gray. If
right.
you want to just look at it without the colors distracting, now we're just seeing the model.
Yeah, that actually does make a difference for me.
Yeah, I figured that's why I turned it off, just so you can see. Just don't get distracted with color at all.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I think that the rounded back end. So I love the sort of almost jet fuselage or
Yep.
the
Mm-hmm.
jet engine fuselage for her, but
Mm-hmm.
the back feels too much like a Vespa scooter.
Yeah.
And I'm not overly like I don't want it to go overly um,
Scooter.
scooter with it, but I also don't need to go like super high end sports cycle either.
Uh-huh.
But that I feel it drifts too much in the realm of like a scooter or a VW Bug or
Yeah.
something along those lines.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we could play with that too. This was like it's still rudimentary as far as this back shell thing. I
Mm-hmm.
was actually going for the Vespa because I thought, you know what, I hate to ruin scooters, and I don't want to attribute them to one gender or another, but a Vespa because of those more softer lines on them, I kind of do attribute them to more a
Mm-hmm.
feminine shape. As many guy friends I know that have scooters actually, and they'll be pissed off if they heard that.
James
But
alienating everybody
yeah,
as an equal
alienated, yeah.
opportunity. I
But
so I don't so just as a personal thing it doesn't come across as feminine or it doesn't come across gender to me. It just feels wrong. It feels like an odd juxtaposition to have that soft curve in the back with the
mm-hmm,
skull in the front.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, I'm being really bad at articulating my impressions here, but that's just kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, that's no problem. I mean, like I said, we can still play with other stuff. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is what we're doing tonight. So, let's just play around a little bit. Like another thing I was thinking about doing was, and this is going to be again really rudimentary, but let's try this out. If I was to go in here and I'll turn on ghosting. These.
No, you're going to different perspective windows, right? So this is just
Yes.
an orthographic projection. Yeah, right orthographic. I see it on the top of the screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Let's see.
And for those uninitiated, basically what James has done is he's turned off one of the three axes that define a 3D object, right? And so we're
Yes.
just looking at this object flattened down into 2D space, looking to the right of our three-dimensional grid. And what
Yes.
this allows him to do is manipulate the geometry of the object um, basically in one less dimension, which makes it a little bit easier to manipulate some aspects of it because you're not trying
Yeah.
to you're not trying to manipulate it in a 3D complex space. You have only two dimensions
Yeah. It
to,
makes your
to
life a whole lot easier
mm-hmm.
in that instance. The other thing I can do, and this is just hotkeys that I've kind of learned to kind of get. I mean, muscle memory is teaching me this stuff through blenders. You can actually, like right now, I want to rotate this down towards the tire a little bit, kind of hug it a little more. But if you drag it, you're gonna go all over the place here, as
Yeah.
you can see, because it
Yeah.
doesn't know what to do. So you can actually tie it to in this case, the y-axis, which is green. I think it's a universal thing in all 3D programs. So you tie it to y, you can drag it out, and then you can tie it to your z-axis, which is blue. So you can kind of, I go back to my grab tool, and then I hit the z-axis, and I can kind of bring it down a little bit. Yeah, well, I mean, this is another thing I was thinking about doing with her. Let's see here. So if I go back out, and this is again still really, really basic, but let's go back out to object mode, look at it now.
See, I kind of like that already.
You like that better?
It feels more like a tail, which I think is what I was trying to get at.
And this also gives Calamity a place to rest her tail as well.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I think that's what I was. Yeah, I think it was in a bizarre way the anatomy of that of the sort of that partial dome felt wrong for Tinsel.
Yeah. Yeah, I like this better too. It's not perfect. I mean, I gotta massage the seams a little bit. You know, just so it doesn't feel like it's all kind of attached. But other things I was gonna do was add little dials here on the back there. Yeah. The seat, I mean, I guess I could flatten the seat down a little bit. I mean, I could play around with some subtle things here and there.
I mean, I feel like motorcycle seats, right? Yeah. Like, I'm just trying to imagine what a motorcycle seat looks like in my brain. And I think as long as it feels or ergonomically correct that someone would actually sit on it, I think then yeah, that'll look good. So you're sort of giving her an axle.
Yeah, a little bit of an axle there. But this brings up another question, and I don't, without saying too much, but there is a part of me that was thinking, I mean, I need to figure out a way to, like right now, you know, this wheels, I mean, how, in the land of cartoons, you can pretty much explain everything away by saying, it's a cartoon. And then, you know.
Sure.
I don't like to, I mean, that can often make you lazy too.
Well, I think I totally agree. Now, the Simpsons have completely betrayed this, but for a long time, Matt Groening was very firm on this notion of flexible reality.
Yeah.
Right? So, and what that means is basically there is a set of rules that the Simpsons exists within that they don't break. And you can bend it, you can cheat it a little bit here or there, like Homer falls down a flight of stairs that probably would hurt him if you were an actual human. Yeah. But within the context of the cartoon, it's okay because it's not really breaking the rules of the world that they've established. And I think that that's a good lesson to keep in mind, even for our wacky, zany. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. And that's probably a conversation we'll need to have off of the call, because I think it goes into a larger. It is a larger.
It's going to take a while to kind of figure that out. But I mean, it is something that, I mean, it is something that we should talk. I mean, I could at least bring it up here and you can see it visually already.
Yes.
And that is something that'll be in your head too, so we can talk about it on our offline call a little bit. I mean, we don't have to. We don't have to answer that question today in our live stream, but yes, but you see here, I mean, it could be cool, I guess. I mean, I could play with the shape a lot to give some sort of root for the tires.
Well, here's my question for you. Would it be too sci-fi if parts of Tinsel were held together via some sort of electromagnetic force or electricity field?
So future duct tape.
Yeah. Exactly. Future duct tape. Yeah.
Does that mean it needs to be animated? That's a question I would.
It would probably have to be animated. Yeah, I would assume so.
So you're talking like like the pod race in Star Wars Phantom Menace type of stuff where there's like these electrical isn't there electrical stuff that's
There
holding
is like
Anakin's
there's like electrical. It's like electrical bit that bit that connects the two engines
yeah,
together or something like
that's what
that.
you're talking about, right?
Yeah, something along those lines. And it doesn't have to be quite that explicit. It could be more sort of the Vaseline field underneath the land speeder from A New Hope,
Mm-hmm.
um, where it's more of just a distortion effect rather than an actual animated visual effect.
I think I think because of the nature of our show and how simplified the backgrounds will look, you're not going to see that distortion that much.
Okay.
But I think the electrical, so the electrical field that you see, like a couple of wires that are cycled, will probably be the easier way to go
Hmm.
if we wanted to do that instead.
And I'm not saying we do. I'm just
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm just
Yep.
sort of pie in the
Yeah,
skying right
we're just
now.
yeah, we're
Yeah.
just yeah, exactly. Yeah, but that's a good suggestion. I mean, I think we could try that.
It would give Tinsel a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more
Yep.
bounciness, because
Yeah, that's
like
true.
putting an actual brace there for the tires
Hmm.
makes Tinsel feel really rigid at that point, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
And that's and that this is it's a stylistic question. How rigid do you want Tinsel to feel? How
I want
much?
her to I want her to feel Ricky Rackety. I
Yeah,
think
okay.
the more that we talk about it, the more you sold me on the fact that that electromagnetic avenue might be the way to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, so another thing I wanted to do, this isn't working at all, is I wanted to make that this jet engine because that's literally what this is supposed to be, the jet engine.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of more of a pronounced like the secondary feature about her. Like it's her head first, obviously. Then the next thing you want to look at is her jet engine. But
Mm-hmm.
the more so my intuition is to go size and make it big. But then she looks kind of clunky.
She does, yeah. At that
So
size,
back to
it
the
looks, yeah,
yeah,
really, really, really clunky. Yeah, I
and then
agree.
back to this, she does feel more lean this way.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I don't know if I can really get around tweaking that all too much.
I mean, I think a smaller size is fine. I don't think there's any rules until in terms of how big it's supposed to be. I think as long as it looks right is what matters.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it does look right the way we have it. So I'm gonna leave that alone. Let's see here. I'm just gonna add one more little subtle thing here. I did want to add the cone
Yeah,
aspect of it.
yeah.
Yeah, so we know that that's in there. It's pretty subtle though. You can't really see it, but it's okay.
And that's kind of one of those 10% things,
Yeah.
right? Where if you don't have it, it looks wrong, but if you do have it,
Hmm.
no one notices it because it looks right.
Yeah. So really, the what's left for me to for what's left for me to kind of do is to patch her together. Meaning, I may want to think about how I want to handle these scenes. I've never actually built a motorcycle character before. This is my first one, so it's not a very common thing that I'm used to doing. But
Yeah.
it's interesting. It's interesting exercise for sure. But the most fun I had was obviously making her head. But all this stuff, all the mechanical stuff, is more engineer minded type stuff. And so now I'm asking questions like, well, how does the seat attach to the fuselage, the jet engine? And how does this front section attach to this? Do I need to attach it with a bolt?
I think
Or
interestingly, what
what do you think
may
of?
be
Hmm?
of use here is rather than thinking about this from the standpoint of um, a motorcycle, think about it from the standpoint of a horse, right?
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
if we were to think about this from the standpoint of a horse's anatomy, the seat is too far back.
Yeah, sure.
And so Tinsel, or rather Calamity would, rides Tinsel a little bit closer to the horns that way, right?
Hmm.
And then you
Yeah.
kind of solve the problem. Like um, I would assume probably Leon has actually probably strapped a bicycle seat or a motorcycle seat onto the top of this
So
jet engine, right?
so you feel like it's more of a half-assed kind of thing that for Leon when they first met, like, oh, you'd be a great horse, and then just threw a saddle on her.
Yeah, like maybe it's an actual saddle on a jet engine.
I was gonna do that, and I was like, is that too on the nose?
Maybe it is. I don't know.
but yeah, I mean, it is our version of a Western. I could model that seat to look more like a saddle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Kind of play with it that way. With a little, what's that little knob in the front?
Yeah, the
That you hang
pommel,
onto.
or is
Is
that
that
what it's
what it is?
called? I don't
Yeah.
remember.
I mean, I
Was it
could put that on there.
pommel, I think.
Mm, yeah, so I could put that on there. That I mean, I'd have to add a little straps down here a little bit to tie it around. It helps explain a lot of stuff that
Mm-hmm.
way. That's all I think you would really need. And then this stuff. I mean, it does tighten her up if I was to bring her closer to with a saddle,
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Yeah, and I think actually that looks a lot better.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think,
it does.
I mean, like Tinsel being really, really long felt, I don't know, the proportions felt weird. So tightening it
Mm-hmm.
up a little
Mm-hmm.
bit, I actually think makes it look a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you on that.
And then I think you can play with the wheel shape a little bit more that way too. Um, because I think maybe that was part of my problem is that it was so long and then the thinness of the wheels was sort of exacerbating that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Come here, shift D, please. There we go. Jeez. How many
I
times I have
knew
to do it?
I knew that's exactly what was happening. Like it just wasn't copying.
Gosh, just do it. Listen to me, Blender.
Work machine work.
Just magic it.
And I actually
Okay.
like the idea of like the tail portion may actually be connected to the saddle. Like what if, and now I'm just getting really crazy with it. What if it's like a piece of metal that's actually welded to the top of the jet engine and it comes back as the tail, and then the
Mm-hmm.
saddle is strapped over top of that whole concoction, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then that all is welded to the gas tank, which is what the head is mounted onto. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got a through line, like
Yeah.
almost the jet engine is mounted underneath the central beam, which connects everything together. And then the
Mm-hmm.
wheels may be connected via that sort of electromagnetic force, which gives us that jiggly wiggle that we were looking for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. I have no idea if that's right or not. I'm definitely not a.
I like where you're going with it. I think that's going to be more trial and error thing. We'll have to play with it a little bit more. But
Yeah, right. It's not a problem that to
yeah,
be solved right away.
yeah. But I think she already looks. I mean, just us talking about it tonight, I think she already looks better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She definitely looks better. What do you think about the tire ratio now?
I think
Is
those
it
look
better?
pretty good. Yeah.
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 So yeah, I'll still have the bolt in there, but we'll talk about the tire stuff later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is definitely better than the Vespa route. Um,
And it's not overly like. And the thing that I think I know where you were coming from. Like one thing I didn't want Tinsel to do is come across as super aggressive, right? And
mhm.
there are certain elements like a chopper, for instance, or really really
Yeah.
high end, racing motorcycle. Those feel like aggressive machines to me.
Uh,
And
yeah.
so like I get your instinct of wanting to try to stray away from that.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking like, is there too much for lack of a better word, was it too much testosterone for her to be all, all heavy metal?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started doing the Vespa stuff. It's like maybe that's more curves here and there. But I think this solution towards the back is the best is really good. I think like I said, I'll play with the modeling a little bit more, but there's not much. I mean, the general shape is there, so I'm good with
Yeah,
that.
I think the silhouette is starting to settle in. And I like
Hmm.
the key features of the. I mean, obviously, I think the skull is great, and I think the jet engine is great. And I think, yeah, like moving it to more of a tail silhouette in the back, um, and tightening everything up a little bit. I think all of that works really well.
As far as colors, yes, sorry, switching gears a little bit.
No,
As
no, it's
far as
fine.
colors, let's not look at the colors as far as the colors itself, but
Mm-hmm.
the tone of the tone and shape. I think for this, maybe we'll save for next week. I'll render an image with Tinsel. I'll pick some colors, then I'll put Calamity on top of it, and then we'll look at her next week.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, she can't clash in an unappealing way
Yeah,
with Calamity because they're going to be together a lot.
yeah,
So we know what Calamity's color palettes are, and so Tinsel has to have a color palette that works and isn't going to give people a headache looking at.
yeah. And then the last thing, the last little bit is, where is Calamity Jane's feet gonna go? I need to put pedals someplace. I guess I'm gonna have to attach them, kind of sticking out of
Yeah, I
the
mean, you could put them.
jet.
Yeah, like they're just hastily welded onto the side,
Yeah,
either side of the jest engine, and
yeah.
feet forward.
I think that's the only, yeah, it's the only solution I can think of right now. But
Right.
yeah. Anyway, yeah, but this is where Tinsel's at now. She's already evolved even in this half hour conversation.
Yeah, I
Always
think it's
always evolving. This
yeah.
one.
Well, again, this is why I've been so comfortable lingering on Tinsel for so long. This was a really valuable conversation, and this is a pretty like this kind of brainstorming of rapid and rapid iteration is something that's pretty common in these kinds of explorations.
Yeah.
And so this was, I think, extremely valuable to spend some time on.
So this pose right here already her. I like this pose a lot actually. She looks pretty. She looks pretty
Yeah, it
badass.
looks pretty
You
cool.
know.
Yeah, no,
I
I
do
dig
want to
it.
find a way to accent this thing out, but I don't know how I'm going to do it yet. But I'll figure something out. I don't know.
Oh, that is kind of
Well, you like that?
cool. We don't. I mean, think about it. We don't have to. It doesn't have to be like yeah. Jet engines have to be totally cylindrical because they're the turbine is rotating inside of it. So an elliptical turbine would be a little bit weird, but like
But
we don't have to adhere to that.
maybe that does work. I mean, it does kind of break up her shape too, and it does give like here we front view.
Yeah. So I mean, it doesn't. I'm not saying you have to go with an elliptical shape, but like, yeah, like think we don't. There's no reason why we have to. We're not actually trying to make tinsel like a physical
Yeah,
object.
yeah, yeah.
Um. So yeah, like slightly non-realistic form factors, I think, is totally fair game.
Well, I'm gonna save it before it crashes on me. For
Probably a
sure.
good idea.
Yeah. I know we went over a little bit tonight, but yeah, it was good.
No, I
It
think
was
it's a
good.
valuable
Good.
conversation. This is
Yeah.
aside from my pre-game show or game show. I don't know why I said that. Pre-show rant. We were really on topic tonight. Crazy.
Well, we have to kind of ease into it, so
That's
that's
true.
fine. I
Yeah,
was
that's true.
totally cool
You
with
gotta walk before you can run.
it. Well, cool.
All right. Well, I think that's a pretty good stopping point. We're a little bit over. Um, but thanks for tuning in, everybody, and I hope you enjoy the show. We'll be back as usual, same time, same place next week. You can find us at all the things, patreon.com, calamityjane.rocks, Facebook, YouTube, the huge. And hope to see you soon. Good night, everybody. Stay safe.
Good night.